Hi, and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads. We are continuing in our story, The Magic Circle by Katherine Neville. I'm going to see if I can move you a little bit closer. Again, we're in our new location. The sun's in a different position here, and it's still a little echoey, but as we decorate and figure out how to make things work properly, that'll change and things will improve with the quality of the videos. Anyway, the story, I'm really liking it. I hope you are too. So in our last video, Laugh was telling Ariel about his childhood and about Lucky and how Lucky is really Adolf Hitler, which she is shocked. And Lucky takes the children, so back in the past, to a museum and shows them a sword and a spear that are supposed to be extremely powerful together, and even more so when combined with other artifacts, which include the runes manuscript that Wolfgang, I think he said Pandora, asked to bring to Ariel. Laugh then says, hey, Wolfgang is not my friend. As a matter of fact, I don't even like him, and he's pretty dangerous. So it's a whole thing. But during the conversation, there is a discussion that the sword and the spear were used at Christ's crucifixion. And so that's the page that we're turning to. We are going back to the time of Christ in the story. And remember, it's a historical fiction, so everything may not be, 100% accurate, right? Okay, so this section is entitled The Truth. And there's some quotes. If circumstances lead me, I will find where truth is hid, though it were hid indeed within the center. And that's Shakespeare's Hamlet. Jesus, to this end I was born, and for this cause I came into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. Pilate. What is truth? And that's in the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verses 37 and 38. Therefore, the effort to arrive at the truth, and especially the truth about the gods, is a longing for the divine. And that's Plutarch in Moralia. And it's sort of a hobby of mine, the truth. And that was Cary Grant as a master thief, John Roby, in the story To Catch a Thief. All right. We are in Judea, spring AD 33, the first apostle. Now, when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene and his disciples when they had heard that he was alive and had been seen of her, believed not. And that's the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verses 9 and 10. But what is the truth? Johann Zebedee asked of his older brother James, Johann John. How can Joseph of Arimathea expect us to remember something that took place more than a year ago? The brothers had left behind the port of Joppa and the ship on which James had just returned from his year-long mission abroad in Celtic Iberia. They took the rocky high road out of town. When I visited with Joseph in the Isles of Britannia, said James, he told me that it was his belief that some key element was missing from the story of the master's last days. You know, the master always said his legacy would be to share his mysteries with his truest disciples. It occurred to Joseph that maybe the master, realizing his time on earth with us was short, actually did impart these secrets. But because he spoke in parables, none of us grasped the hidden meaning in his words. That's why I've hurried from Celtic Iberia to bring Joseph's letter, asking Miriam of Magdala, basically Mary Magdalene, to look into this matter. And he hopes that we, you, Simon Peter, and I, as the master's 3 chosen successors, will lend her our support. James and his younger brother, Johann Zebedee, along with their business partners, Simon Peter and his brother Andrew, had been the first disciples recruited by the master for his mission. When he'd found them along the shores of Lake Galilee, he told them to put down their fishing nets and follow him. He would teach them to become fishers of men. So the Zebedees, as first chosen, had come to expect preferential treatment, and they'd always received it until recently. This year had cost them everything, Johann thought bitterly. His older brother had stayed away too long, and there was much he needed to learn. Perhaps you can explain to me what Miriam of Magdala has to do with any of this, he asked James. Why should she be the official messenger? Joseph has always supported Miriam's claim that she was the first apostle, first to see the master after death, risen from his tomb that morning in Joseph's garden at Gethsemane, said James. Whenever Joseph refers to Miriam, he still calls her the first messenger, apostle to the apostles. And whether or not we want to believe the master really honored Miriam so greatly, in all honesty, we must recognize such a thing was not wholly out of his character. Wholly, WH, like entirely. The truth is, it would be no different from the honors the master constantly bestowed on Miriam throughout his life. Honors and kisses, snapped Johann. The world knows I was the master's most beloved disciple. He treated me like his child and embraced me even more than he did Miriam. Didn't he entrust me with his mother's care when he died, as if I were her own son? And the master said you and I would sip from his chalice when the kingdom of heaven came, as great an honor as he gave Miriam. I fear that cup, Johann, James said softly. Perhaps you'd be wise to fear it too. Everything has changed since you left Judea, James, said the younger man. Even our triumvirate no longer exists. Peter says that only one rock can be a foundation stone, and that he was chosen by the master. There's factionalism, jealousy, resentment, friend against friend. If you'd stayed here in Jerusalem this past year, things might not have arrived at such a sorry state. I'm distressed to hear that, James, but things haven't changed so much that they can't be salvaged. He set his hands on his younger brother's shoulders, just as the master used to do. Johann felt a pang of sorrow. How he missed the master's simplicity and strength. You don't understand, James, said Johann. Miriam has become Peter's particular thorn. She's been sequestered with her family in Bethany these many months, and no one ever sees her. Peter resents her more than he ever did me for her special closeness to the master. He's changed everything because of her. The women don't preach or heal or even go abroad on missions now. unless they're accompanied by a male apostle. And they must cover their hair, for it's said that the temptation of such openness and liberties as were permitted when the master was alive is too great, and will turn most women to wantonness. But do you mean to tell me Simon Peter has created such rules by his own decision? James interrupted. With the support of others, though I assure you I'm not among them. James, you must understand that while you and Joseph may want the truth, there are those who believe they already have it. A saga is being spun to explain the master's every word and deed, and often by those who never understood him or even knew him at all. These stories are confusing, contradictory, and sometimes totally bald-faced lies. It's been suggested, for instance, that those 7 devils the master cast out of Miriam were not merely sins of pride or vanity in her education or beauty, but something far worse, something venal. But how can you say such things? Cried James. How can Peter permit it? Doesn't he fear the master will shut him out of the kingdom altogether? Please remember, said Johann with a bitter little smile. It is Simon Peter himself who holds the keys to that kingdom. They were given him by the master, as he permits no one to overlook. As you see, my dear brother, you have not returned. No, I'm sorry, you have returned, not a moment too soon. Sorry, licking my fingers. Well, it's my book, right? All right, and now, we go a whole year ahead. Brigantium, summer, AD 34. The words. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. False Christs and false prophets shall rise. The sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. But the gospel must first be published among all nations. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And that's Jesus in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, verses 8 through 31. And I think we're getting, I don't want to bore you guys to tears. Not that this is boring, because it's not, but we're coming up on 14 minutes, and I try to keep them pretty short. So we're not going to actually delve into this chapter. We're going to hit this one in the next video, okay? So, chaos reigns in Jerusalem. Okay, history repeats itself, right? I mean, there's chaos everywhere in the world these days. Anyway, okay. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.